PUBG Mobile, arguably one of the most successful and impactful mobile games of all time, with arguably one of the most depressing downfalls in all of gaming history. Within just a few months' time, PUBG Mobile went from winning Game of the Year and being ranked the #1 Battle Royale game across all platforms, amassing over 65 million daily players and being considered the best PC mobile port to ever grace smartphones around the world, to being banned in 9 countries across the globe and losing over 2/3 of its player base after the game essentially forgot all sense of what originally made it so special due to unrelenting corporate greed. And listen, don't get me wrong, I don't exactly hate modern PUBG. It's still one of the best mobile shooters out there with a massive dedicated player base and a constant stream of new content. But this isn't this. This is a revolutionary, dark and gritty, atmosphere-driven testament to the Battle Royale genre, with iconic features and groundbreaking tech advancements that easily allowed it to become one of the most beloved and nostalgic mobile games of an entire generation. And this is a cold, empty shell and a mockery of the empire this game used to be. So here's my own narrative attempt to demonstrate just how far this game rose and just how far it fell. To understand what PUBG Mobile was meant to be, we first have to discuss what the original PUBG was. And unlike mobile, I'm not actually going to get into the development of the original game, since it spans multiple years and involves a long list of movies, games, mods, people, and so forth. All you really need to know is that it was spawned into existence by this man, and was officially released globally in December of 2017. And this game blew up, seemingly overnight. I mean, I doubt that there's even a single soul on this earth that hasn't seen of or heard of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. From famous streamers, YouTubers, celebrities, merch, ads plastered literally everywhere, you couldn't escape the Battlegrounds even if you wanted to. The premise is simple: 100 players drop into a gigantic map full of desolate cities and abandoned towns. Then they loot up and fight each other through brutal guerrilla warfare until only one team is left standing. While this is a fairly formulaic system nowadays, PUBG pretty much coined the Battle Royale genre. And while plenty of other Battle Royales have risen to compete since its release, very few have even compared to the sheer impact that PUBG had on the gaming industry. So what exactly made this game so special? To start off, PUBG literally was just built different. In a world full of high-octane, low-risk, low-reward 5-minute round-based shooters, the slow-paced, tactical, high-risk, high-reward 30-minute matches of PUBG allowed for a completely unique adrenaline-pumping experience unlike anything ever seen before. It was slow. It was meant to be slow. And it was perfect slow. You probably at most only spent around 6 to 7 minutes of your time within the Battlegrounds actually battling other players. The rest of the 30 minutes was spent tactically landing, looting, and traversing the barren terrain. You couldn't simply run and gun. The Battlegrounds were full of required and precise decision-making during those quiet moments. You picked where to land, you picked what guns to use, you picked what armor and healing you needed, you picked where to fight, you picked where to die. Every single action you took mattered. And with limited inventory space and an ever-closing gas circle, making the map smaller and smaller as that timer ticked down, every action mattered infinitely more. And with gritty realistic graphics and the haunting atmosphere of war, you were fully immersed into the Battlegrounds. Not only being able to see, but being able to hear who's battling around you was a key component to PUBG utilized in a completely new fashion. You can understand where your enemies are and in what state they are in solely based on their echoing gunshots. And you can choose when the right time to strike is, if there even is one at all. And since not only you are listening and scanning for everyone else, but everyone else is also listening and scanning for you, the game festers this dreadful sense of paranoia of being able to be shot at any moment. So even the slow, quiet moments are filled with genuine anticipation and tension. And despite there only being one map at the original release, every single game you played was determined to be wildly different than the last, because of the circle closing into a different location or facing off against entirely different players with their own unique playstyles. All of these factors made this game absolutely perfect for the competitive and esports scene. But that's only one side of the game and only one reason of why it was so successful. The other reason is because it was just utterly broken. The game was riddled with horrendous glitches and ludicrous moments that allowed the exact opposite of a competitive community to thrive as well. Now, you could play over 30 matches and never come across a single one of these absolute abominations of game design, but as soon as you did, content gold. Sure, they were pretty enraging to the people who actually wanted to play the game, but these glitches combined with a few iconic words, such as friendly fire and voice chat, PUBG would have never been just as famous as it is now if it wasn't for the insane amount of virtually brain-dead content this game was able to produce. So here we have two sides to an absolute brilliant game that have solidified PUBG's place within gaming history. It was a perfect tribute to the Battle Royale genre, built on passion and years upon years of intricate game design experience. But I guess it wasn't enough for this game to dominate consoles and PCs around the world, so the revolutionary minds behind PUBG teamed up with some of the best mobile development teams in the world to bring the iconic Battlegrounds to smartphones around the globe. Only problem was, someone else had done it first. December 2017. The mobile gaming industry was peaking. Angry Birds, Arena of Valor, Candy Crush, Clash of Clans, Pixel Gun 3D, Pokemon Go, and before PlayerUnknown could even conceptualize bringing PUBG to mobile devices, the market had already been flooded with cheap knockoffs to capitalize on PUBG's success. Virtually every single mobile game development studio had given a swing at bringing their own version of this game to the mobile platform, the most prominent being Rules of Survival and Knives Out by NetEase, and Free Fire Battlegrounds by Garena, all of which, at the time, sucked. They were mobile games. Rules of Survival and Knives Out, despite being faithful to the mechanics of PUBG, specifically their slow tactical gameplay and long match runtimes, had both taken some creative liberties to get past certain censorship laws in target countries. And Free Fire, despite blatantly ripping off the map, weapons, designs, environment, and even the Battlegrounds name, just wasn't even PUBG. It was quick. The map was smaller, the player count halved, and the movement sporadic. Free Fire has since then evolved into an empire of its own. And yes, these games have also since then become pillars of nostalgia for anyone who played them, but they just weren't PUBG. And that's fine. Nowadays they function as their own standalone games. But originally they were nothing more than blatant ripoffs. The main reason that they had become so popular in the first place is because they were free. So for anyone who couldn't afford a computer or console to play PUBG, these games quickly became the next best thing. Specifically, Free Fire. The creators of PUBG weren't happy with this. Both NetEase and Garena were turning major profits from ripping off all of their hard work. But luckily for them, their future Chinese publisher, and extremely well-known tech supergiant, Tencent, was looking to expand their mobile portfolio after already working with Activision on a Call of Duty mobile project for over a year now. Tencent offered yet another one of their best mobile development teams and a marketing strategy that guaranteed success, an offer that PUBG simply couldn't refuse. And that was the day that PlayerUnknown unknowingly shook hands with the devil. The development of PUBG Mobile only took 4 months. To understand just how insane of a timeframe that is for a AAA mobile shooter game development process, both Call of Duty Mobile and Warzone each took around 3 entire years to complete. Even Apex Mobile took at least 2. And within those 4 months, they also successfully built an entire mobile engine within UE4 to host the game's complex nature. Oh yeah, and it worked. Perfectly. Better than perfectly. It took everything from the original PUBG and dumped it into a phone. The maps, the guns, the vehicles, the mechanics, the atmosphere, the tension, the quirks, the bugs, everything. No shortcuts, no quicker matches, no less in player count. This was PUBG, and now it even sports a fully optimized and customizable touch UI with new mobile-friendly features such as auto pickup, auto equip, gyro controls, and visual sound cues, with graphics that gave most mobile games of the time a run for their money. And just like its competitors, it was entirely free. The only thing that this game lacked was friendly fire, but most would say that was for the better. And Tencent really pulled through with their marketing. PUBG Mobile was plastered everywhere, and it took the world by storm. It quickly became the second most downloaded mobile game of 2018, as well as the most downloaded Battle Royale game of the same year, beating even Fortnite itself. PUBG Mobile won Golden Joystick's Game of the Year by a landslide, and it's safe to say that even Free Fire was left in the dust. PUBG Mobile only got better after its first year. Charity events, crossovers, limited time modes, championships, and other app variants for specific countries and lower end devices. All of which led to the amount of downloads and daily players doubling. By this point, the mobile version had somehow become more popular than the original game itself. Then, by its third year, the game had gained over 65 million daily players, with over 700 million downloads worldwide, and had made over 3.5 billion USD in revenue from cosmetics alone. The devs had added PUBG Mobile's own exclusive map that catered to shorter match times, making the game more available on the go. The game was exceeding all expectations, and had solidified its place on the Battle Royale throne. But as they say, what goes up must eventually come back down. And with how far PUBG Mobile rose so far, its fall was destined to be monumental. On the 2nd of September in 2020, PUBG Mobile was banned in India along with several other Chinese associated apps. India being one of the game's most prominent player bases, this single banning cut the active player count in half. It's around this same time that the game is targeted for allegedly inspiring violence amongst younger individuals, leading to even more bans in several neighboring countries. But the issues that truly led to PUBG Mobile's tragic downfall had been festering for years prior. You see, as soon as the game released back in 2018, it immediately began to deviate from its predecessor. There was a major push from all parties involved to emulate the successful nature of Fortnite by adding more cosmetics, challenges, and reward systems. Over time, these cosmetics and eventual collaborations became more colorful, which I guess even in realistic aggressive round-based shooters like Call of Duty doesn't serve as too much of a problem considering you're not necessarily spending the entire game camping and blending into a harsh naturalistic environment, but that's the entirety of PUBG. It's a game built on environment and tension, and seeing a bunny butterfly made princess run across your screen really breaks that immersion. Plus, as Fortnite debuted bigger and bigger game-changing events and LTMs, so did adjacent Battle Royales. So not only are there now plenty of collaborative cosmetics that make absolutely no sense in a desolate war zone, you will also now have Godzilla himself stomping around the map, or gigantic manta rays gliding through the sky. Sure, these events were typically held on separate servers than the base Battle Royale experience, but that doesn't change the fact that it forever altered the mood surrounding the game. That, among more and more cosmetic crates being added to the game, where you literally virtually gamble with absurdly low odds of getting absolutely anything you actually wanted, which essentially serve as a legal infinite money siphoner from little kids using their mother's credit cards. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I don't appreciate the effort the devs and designers put into these cosmetics or special events. I'm just saying that they may be caring a little bit more about the money that they're generating, rather than keeping the actual genuine player base satisfied. In simplest terms, the original PUBG Mobile was a PC game that you could play on your smartphone. Within just a few years' time, it had become your average cosmetic cash grab mess of a typical mobile game. Actually, pause. Let's talk a little bit more about these cosmetics, and more specifically, the sheer amount of them. This game has more cosmetic items and accessories than virtually all other mobile games I've ever played. There's pets, emotes, sprays, parachutes, trails, planes, helicopters, helmets, backgrounds, sparklers, suits, entire houses? There's a skin for every single weapon, every single melee or throwable, every single vehicle, every single accessory, every single everything. There's also just an insane amount of ways to get cosmetics. Battle passes, paid subscriptions, crates, lucky draws, challenges, in-game currencies, real-life money, and so many more. Most of which aren't even permanent, A majority of character effects like trails, sprays, and lobby items are single use. And there's an absurd amount of temporary cosmetics, ads for all of which cover your entire home screen. It's suffocating. This game quickly became nothing more than a bank of opportunities for you to spend money. The worst part is, this isn't just a game for grown adults, who theoretically have enough experience to spend money responsibly. This is a mobile game, meaning at least 35 to 40% of its users are underage. Yeah, you can see why there'd be a bit of a problem here. But the issues didn't stop there. You see, these new cosmetics didn't just change the environment of the game, they also fundamentally changed the way it's played. In a game where tactically blending into your environment becomes increasingly impossible, movement becomes king. Players began playing more competitively even in public lobbies, prioritizing hot drops, abusing vehicle systems, developing insane movement tactics that allowed you to dodge bullets like Neo. Getting 20 plus kills within one match had become more fulfilling than actually winning. Hot drops became bloodbaths, and with the addition of arena mode and the first 2x2 kilometer map, the bloodbath simply never ended. PUBG Mobile was becoming even more competitive than its predecessor, and content creators thrived off of this. The best of the best became celebrities, and everyone else who played wanted to be exactly like them. All of which, at the time, helped make PUBG Mobile as famous as it is now. The esports side of PUBG was growing exponentially, and the cosmetics were an absolute hit among younger audiences. So it only makes sense that after the bans, Tencent would ramp up the rate of updates and collaborations to make up for the game's major losses. New maps, new game modes, new cosmetics, new vehicles. PUBG Mobile was rapidly losing its identity, so much so that the original creators of PUBG, now called Krafton, resorted to rebuilding the game from the ground up in late 2021, leading to what we now know as which crashed and burned upon release because people refused to stop playing PUBG Mobile. Meanwhile, Tencent released Battlegrounds India, which was another revamped version of the game that now complied with India's new legislation, but that also got banned from Apple and Play stores for an entire year. PUBG Mobile only got worse. While it still has an estimated average of 15 to 20 million daily players, with over 1.3 billion downloads worldwide and 11 billion in revenue, the game has become an overwhelming mess of minigames, cosmetic gambling, cheaters, unreasonable banning, bots, skill gaps, and so much more. PUBG Mobile has become nothing more than a cash grab and an empty shell of the empire that it used to be. The addition of a team deathmatch mode and a push for smaller map sizes only enforced the faster-paced aggressive gameplay, continuing to draw away from the original tactical pool of PUBG, and reinforce people to move to other faster-paced run-and-gun shooters like COD, giving you that same rush but in a format solely built on that experience, leading to almost all lobbies outside of China and India being practically ghost towns. Unless you're in the highest echelon of competitive players who have already invested too much time and money into the game to even afford to stop playing. PUBG Mobile simply isn't gaining enough new players. It's developed too high of a skill wall and has lost all sense of identity and uniqueness. That, coupled with the reality of all those who are still addicted killing off all other alternatives by refusing to migrate, the game is just kinda destined to slowly wither away until nothing is left, becoming no more discernible than a cheap knockoff. I'm not saying that any of this means that this empty shell can't exactly be enjoyable for what it is, it just isn't PUBG. But no matter how much I miss what PUBG was, no matter how much I want to change what this game has become, the fact of the matter is, PUBG Mobile was destined to become what it is now. Both PUBG and PUBG Mobile were games built on a fundamental, unchanging formula. It was the inverse of almost all other games of its time, and it was meant to be that way. And I don't think Tencent understood this. Not really. Out of the countless interviews I've consumed for this video, from the game's director to Tencent's head publisher in the Americas, there's not a single mention of actually caring what the original PUBG was. The brutal reality is that this project wasn't started for a love of what PUBG was, or Battle Royales were. It was a monetary investment into what they could make the game become. At the end of the day, PUBG Mobile was nothing more than a tool to them. And not just a tool to make money, but a tool to destroy all competition. But even without Tencent, PUBG was doomed to die. The franchise was built on an unchanging formula, and born into a rapidly changing market. A market where you either die a hero, or live long enough to see yourself become Fortnite. PUBG Mobile was a game that I dedicated the earliest days of my channel to, and despite all those videos now either being privated or deleted, I'll always look back on them fondly for the wonderful years of joy this game provided. And I'll always resent Tencent for what they made PUBG Mobile become. But PUBG isn't an isolated incident, and there might just be something so much bigger here at play.